Hi folks! Right now I'm going to talk a little bit about x and y intercepts, which often comes up as a multiple choice question on the CST exam, but sometimes is part of long answer questions, so we really need to attend to it. What is an x and a y intercept? Well, in this example up here, where I've already drawn a line on a Cartesian plane, and I don't have to give its equation or anything, we can see that that line intersects the x-axis in one spot, and it intersects the y-axis in another spot. Those are your x-intercepts, where it intercepts the x-axis, and your y-intercept is where a line intersects the y-axis. Now there's a couple of key properties here, and that's that in this particular case, x will have a value, but the value of y is always 0 because it's sitting on the line. So for example, if this is where x equaled 2, this spot right here would be 2, 0. Similarly, if we look at the y-axis, we can see that there's got to be a number for y where this line crossed. Let's say it was -1. And so we would have a value, for example, of 0, -1. The value of x is 0 because it's sitting on the axis, but the value of y has to be a number of some kind. So for all y-intercepts, we're looking at 0, y. So our rule for x and y-intercepts is that the x-intercept is when y equals 0. So your value will be x, 0, and your y-intercept is when x equals 0. In that case, it's 0 and then a value of y. If we look at the multiple choice style question, we can see that they've given us a point and some information about a line. So it says point P, -10, 24, is on line L in the Cartesian plane. The slope of line L is greater than 0. Which of the following statements is true? Well, we need to know something else about slopes, and as you might recall from your class or from other videos, a positive slope always goes up to the right on a Cartesian plane. So we have a positive slope. And a negative slope will always go up to the left. Negative slope. So that's kind of good to remember as we look at this question, even though it's about intercepts. So in this case, I'm going to say, well, where would -10, 24 appear as a point? So I'm going to pretend this is like -10 out here, and 24 is a positive number, and so I'm just going to kind of ballpark it and put a point up here. Now, if the slope of the line is greater than 0, what's interesting about this is that we're looking at a line that's going to go way off the map. Like it's got to be a positive slope because it says it's greater than 0, and it's going to go all the way down, say this way. So I'm just going to kind of extend my axes that I drew on here in order to account for that. So the question is, where do these intercepts occur? Well, if I look at where this is going to like cross the y-axis, I can see that it's a positive value way bigger than 24. So it's positive, and that's my y-intercept. If I look at my x-intercept just by extending the line like a positive slope line, and I go way down and hit the x-axis, that's down here somewhere. And that's much, much more negative than -10. I mean, everything on the left side of 0 here on the Cartesian plane is a negative number, and so I have a negative x-intercept. If we go back to our multiple choice, we can see that we have several options. The x-intercept of line L is positive and its y-intercept is positive. Well, the y is, yeah, but the x-intercept isn't. That's gone. And since the x-intercept is not positive, so is option B gone. We want to look at our last two options. The x-intercept of line L is negative, and the y-intercept is positive, and I find that to be true. But always read all of the options in a multiple choice just to be sure. The x-intercept of line L is negative, yes, and its y-intercept is negative. Well, no, because that would mean it had to be like way down here in the Cartesian plane, which it's not. So in this case, our answer is C.